Our main focus to date has been rooftop solar.
Mhm.
I would have said a year ago we were in a kind of startup phase. Now I'd say we're in a ramp up phase. So we've got a large pipeline of rooftop
Mhm.
solar projects that we're
Mhm.
working our way through.
Mhm.
We've built 11 so far, 12 depending on the news I get from the latest rooftop, because one's being built at the moment. And those are increasingly across the UK, starting off with the Midlands, but we're starting to build outside that kind of heartland now. And they really span a whole bunch of different types of buildings. So there's one on a doctor's surgery, there's one on a listed building, which is
Mhm.
a hotel. There
Mhm.
are a couple on industrial buildings, some quite large arrays, a 600 kilowatt rooftop array on an industrial
Fantastic.
building, a school, a range of different types of buildings.
Yes.
Because
Mm.
it's the right scale, it's a 10-acre site, so putting solar on it doesn't completely change the landscape for
Mhm.
miles around.
Mhm.
It's also, so the site itself is not being used for agriculture. There are a couple of horses on it. It's grade 4 agricultural land, so there's no sort of
Yes.
competition with food there. But it's got this wonderful backstory that it was an open cast mine until the 60s. And the poetry of that situation wasn't lost on us. The other thing that's really exciting about it to me was right from the beginning, we wanted to look at using second life solar panels to build a solar farm. The logic of it is that essentially solar panels have improved over time. They're more efficient nowadays, which means that they can produce more energy per unit area. They're not
Yes.
really in any other way better.
Mm.
So panels which are 10 years old are good for another probably 20 years, but not quite as efficient in terms of space. And what we have at Whiteborough is we have quite a lot of space, but we have a very restricted grid connection. We're trying to max out that grid connection, and it makes
Mm.
sense to build an oversized or high DC-AC ratio site
Yes.
in the jargon, where basically we're generating at peak or close to peak more of the time. We're squeezing more
Mm.
down that
Mm.
pipe.
Mhm.
And a really nice way of doing that is to have we've got a 2 megawatt grid connection, roughly 2 megawatts of new panels, and then 1.5 megawatts of second life solar panels. So those are
Fantastic.
providing the additional
Mm.
squeeze on the day like today, which is a bit overcast, where we wouldn't be getting close to saturating our grid connection. We can
Mm.
saturate it.
Mm.
So, and this is
Fantastic.
the big problem that solar farms are taking up a lot of grid capacity without necessarily filling it all the time.
Mm.
So we're trying to broaden that out with this project. Once we understood that, we were unable to accept it, even to the point you say, well, do you want to build solar where you are sponsoring slavery effectively? And that's the way that morally it seems to me, and it's hard to
Yes.
escape that. But what we did is we found a manufacturer where we could independently ascertain what their supply chain was. So in a way, the second life solar thing is a bit. It just reminds me of buying clothes. You go to, I don't know, Benui or Finisterre or somewhere like that, trying to get Patagonia, trying to get ethical clothes. Or in a way, a step up is just go to a charity shop, and that's what we're doing. But I should say we're not going to a place where somebody's got a pile of old panels and we've been offered a load of those. We are decommissioning an existing solar farm that's running today.
Mm.
That means that we've got all the data. We know which panels are pucker, and we
Yeah.
also decommission it ourselves. So we're taking it down and rebuilding it. And that's
Yeah.
crucial
Yeah.
because that means we can make sure that it's all done in the right way and we can ensure quality. We wanted to have a project that fitted with the bond offer. So the two things went together. Ultimately, the bonds are bonds that are issued by Big Solar Co-op. They're not ring fenced with the Whiteborough project, but we need the money to build Whiteborough.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
so it seemed like
Absolutely.
a really nice. It seemed like this was the time to do it. A really good packaging that all came together. And what the money be spent on? Just looking at. It's interesting to look at the breakdown of a solar farm financing, or
Mhm.
solar. So we call it solar park. Solar farms is now implying something so big that we tend to call it a solar park. But I was looking at it this morning. 54% of that money goes on installation
Yeah.
costs,
Yeah.
mountings, and site stuff.
Mhm.
30% on the big electrical stuff. So connection to
Right.
the grid and the high voltage cables that get
Yeah.
from the grid connection point to the site.
Yeah.
And then 8% development costs, 8% solar panels. Solar panels used to be by far the largest ticket item, and now even with our ethical sourcing, they're only 8% of the total. Our ambition is quite a lot larger. We want to grow this more than is shown in the bond offer document, and I think people need to know that they're buying bonds in an organisation which has ambition. We see an awful lot of potential for building mostly more rooftop, but maybe some more similar ground mount schemes as well. And we're going at it as hard as we can. So that's one thing that people need to know. One other little thing you need to know is we don't just want your money. So if people do have ideas, a lot of people I've spoken to have a kind of pet idea for a solar site. They say that roof, I pass it every day, and it ought to have solar on it. And if you're willing to go and talk to the owners of that building, we can even train you up to help you do that. And we've already got several volunteers who've done exactly that, gone to buildings they pass every day, knocked on the door, and we've now installed solar on the roof.
That's
That's a
brilliant,
whole
Jon.
other strap outside the bond offer. You can become
Yes.
a volunteer member and directly get things built in your community